Welcome to Manga Machinations! It's episode number 509, and we're doing a little extra Pride in Panels with Until I Met My Husband. I'm Dakazu, and with me is Starfox8.
Hello, it's me, Darfox8.
And Morgana Santilli.
Hey everybody.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our manga podcast. We're essentially a book club that talks about manga. We're currently recording this session live on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/mangamactv. And if you're listening to the audio form, you can go over to that YouTube channel and watch the recording, if you so choose. Darfox is there with his green shirt.
So, some fun meta commentary, and so you know where my brain is at. Over my left shoulder, you can see like a white shirt that's kind of crumpled up on my on my chair back there. Before the podcast, I usually have a white undershirt, and then we're like, oh, let me put on a different kind of shirt, a shirt with a design or a polo or something for the podcast. So for some reason, I was like, oh, let me put on a shirt. I put that white shirt over my white shirt. And I sat down. I'm like, this feels weird. Why does this feel weird? And I was like, oh, I just put on a white shirt over my white shirt for no reason. So I took it off and I put it back there. I don't know. It's Saturday. I don't have to work today, so my brain isn't working. It's fine.
Our brains are fried, but we're still here to talk about manga to you.
That's right. White shirt over white shirt.
If you want to support Darfox's white shirts, then consider buying us a coffee. Head over to ko-fi.com/mangamac, and you too can be a generous manga head. Darfox has put up a graphic on our live stream. Our Land of the Lustrous retrospective has been funded by Philip. He also funded our Berserk Psycho Selection episode, which is already out. The Ooku Inner Chambers, which we should be getting into when Seamus gets back. That was funded by Manga Machu, Vicky Dalton, and Lulu. And shout out to everyone else who has supported us. The Luid, Mia, Wyatt, Dr. Melface, Poor Mexican 72, Liquidus 002, Xteen, and Jen. Thank you for supporting us. Okay, I actually remember to mention everything that we do at the top of this episode. Usually I forget one of them. It's usually the YouTube. Let's see, next I have an email. We haven't done email in a while, but I got an email from our friend Tyler in Germany titled Long Runner. So let's read this. Do you think we will get another Long Runner series? Like One Piece as modern example in the modern age of manga. It's seen like storytelling and manga in these days are short, 2010 and up. I'm not complaining, I like nice short story. I'm not counting Dragon Ball as long runner, mostly because in my mind, I feel like Dragon Ball ended, but anime added to it and made few spin-off manga to it. Thank you for your email, Tyler. The thing about this email is there are other long-running manga currently besides One Piece. I don't think One Piece. Yeah, also I don't think One Piece is the longest-running manga.
No, it's
right
not.
Now, anyway,
I think it's Sazai-san. Is that right?
Does that actually still run in because it's a newspaper manga?
Yeah, I think it. I looked it up somewhat recently. I think it might have either been still running or was considered the longest running at some time, but I think it's up there.
As far as running in manga magazine, it used to be Kochikame.
Oh yeah.
Is that the cop one?
Yes. But Hajime no Ippo has been running longer. I mean, the thing about long-running manga is it's the manga artist burnout. They die. they literally
They just
die.
They can't go any longer because they're dead.
I mean, Kohei Horikoshi is finally at the end of My Hero Academia, and that had to go to a bi-weekly schedule.
And that's pretty far along. I mean, it's not, I think volume 106 of One Piece just came out in English.
Morgana,
Something like that.
In 2022, he said, if everything goes according to plan, this manga will end at the end of this year. We're in 2024.
Poor guy.
I hope he never works another day in his life.
Yeah.
Plans, God, flans. Or whatever the expression is.
Now
I don't think it's that.
Hey God, where's my flan?
He's ordering them all up there in heaven, flan in heaven.
Is that what happens when you die and go to heaven?
Yeah.
Flan parties.
I mean, you can do a long-running series, but it's just not really attainable in current settings.
I mean, I think it all is going to depend on popularity, right? Part of the problem is that I feel like big magazines like Jump are cutting things off at the knees before they really get a chance to see whether or not they can make it go, I also think something like Sazai-san or whatever, these other long-running series have a little bit broader appeal, right? They're read by kind of everyone, whereas One Piece is kind of an outlier in that I think obviously a lot of people read it, but the demographic is very specific, right? The intended demographic is very specific, and I think, as far as long-running shonen go, are there that many? I think that when I think of long-running manga in Japan, I think of stuff that appeals to more kind of everybody, grandmas and little kids, and because that's, if you want something to last a long time, it has to have a large market.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about One Piece is people who are reading it when it started are now adults with kids, and now their kids are they're enjoying it with their kids, right? It's generational. But again, my complaint about One Piece is it's super bloated now.
Right.
And I really hope Eiichiro Oda lives to finish it.
Yeah. And I think I've said this before. I feel like in my mental image of Eiichiro Oda is just Luffy sitting at a drawing desk, because the personality of somebody who can be so upbeat about making this monstrosity of a manga is it can only be Luffy. I understand now where Luffy comes from. I understand how this protagonist exists. It's because the author is exactly the same.
This is the man who's once said when you only get an hour's sleep, that's when you get the best crazy ideas.
Yeah, no, that's 10,000% Luffy speaking through him.
I think to what Morgana said, where if you don't so many series actually make it big and continue to grow, and then you add to that only so many series that make it big can have a freak of a creator. So it's even more of a special formula where you My Hero Academia made it big, and My Hero Academia's artist is very talented, but he's clearly kind of getting worn out towards the very end. He's this is the last sprint that he's hobbling towards to get to the end of the manga. That's going to finish in a few weeks. Not everybody's is Eiichiro Oda. Not everybody can have that weird kind of creative energy where they just survive off of that grind. So there might have been many manga artists that maybe had that energy within them, but they never made it. They never got that opportunity to have their monstrosity of a series, because for a reason they made a book that didn't really capture people's imagination, or the editor thought that was boring, and then it was nitpicked and micromanaged into something that the creator wasn't that into. Who knows? There's so many variables, so it's less about when, but more if it's possible. It probably will happen, but it's just you kind of can't count on it unless you're just making like some sort of franchise. How the Duke Togo, who that manga artist?
Oh, Go 13.
Yeah, yeah. He passed away, but he had a situation where his studio had writers and artists, and like it wasn't just him. He was like the one in charge, but it wasn't just him doing the manga. It was a whole team of people making that manga. So that's a completely different situation, and stuff like that can happen. But I imagine that stuff isn't as popular if it's not a very famous and iconic series like Duke Toggle.
Popularity wanes too. Like Go 13 was crazy popular in the past, but now it's niche. You could say the same thing about Hajime no Ippo. It was super popular, and now like it's barely there in weekly shonen magazine.
I also will say, and some of these titles we're mentioning, I don't necessarily think this is about them, but long running doesn't mean good.
Right.
No.
I think for the most part, the push to keep publishing something has a lot more to do with making money than it has to do with making good manga.
100%. All the publishers would love to keep going like forever.
And again, I don't think that necessarily means that a long running series is inherently bad. I think there are long running series that but once a series gets past like 20 volumes, I'm like, is this really necessary? Like, could you not have said what you needed to say and showed the story in a more concise and like, I don't know, I feel like we're drawing shit out.
I mean, Kingdom is super popular and super long running, and I feel like we've passed that peak.
Right.
There's a new live action movie that they're doing, so they're promoting it a lot, but the manga wise, it's like I don't know. I feel like everything like starts to wane after a while.
Yeah, I mean, personally, if I'm not like really devoted to something, by around volume 10, I'll be like, okay, I'm starting to check out, right? Like, not because it's like, I mean, that's partially me, but honestly, the like sales of manga reflect that too. A lot of people stop buying like when you get longer into a series.
I mean, I was shocked when Demon Slayer ended when it ended, because I was like, the popularity is crazy. The anime is doing gangbusters. They're gonna end, and they did end, and I was like, hot damn, good for the manga artist, and I'm actually proud of like Shueisha for like letting that one go. But hey, that thing is still selling.
Oh yes.
So yeah.
And all the spin-offs.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we could see another long running series, but I feel like because Japan is like finally caught up on like not overworking their manga artists as horribly as they used to in the past. Like literally as a sweatshop worker, like just make it. It's a famous story about Dragon Ball too, right? Like it was supposed to end way earlier, but Shueisha pushed Akira Toriyama to like keep it going. It's just sad because it's all connected with like the short lifespan of like manga artists as well. And it's all connected to lack of sleep. That weekly schedule, man, it's
not sleeping is literally one of the worst things you could do for your body.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about it.
And Koukei Horikoshi said in that the right way to make jump manga. Oh, I try to get at least 4 hours of sleep a day. But
that
not
is
when
not
I have
enough.
a crunch. Yeah.
That is not enough hours. I also do not get enough hours of sleep. I'll tell you outright. I used to.
You got kids.
I got kids. And I do go to bed earlier, much earlier than I used to. I used to be like go to bed at midnight, wake up at 8 kind of person. Now I have to like kind of be winding down by 9 p.m. because I got work. My kids have no respect for time and allowing me to sleep in even on weekends.
I'm sorry, Morgan. That's all I can say.
I know. It's fine. I was up at 6:30 this morning. It's fine.
Oh, Jesus.
And every morning. It's cool.
Remember this when they're teenagers and they won't sleep in.
Honestly, I'm actually looking forward to it because then we'll just all sleep in. I have to say though, actually, I can't sleep in the way I used to. Like now, sleeping until like 8:30 or 9 is like, wow, I can't believe I slept so late. And it used, when I was younger, it'd be like 11. Like, I wish.
All right. We'll move along from the email. Thanks again for the email, Tyler. If you want to send us emails, send them over to mangamachinations@gmail.com. We will read them. Okay, let's move along to some what you been reading. Okay, Morgana, I know you were sick this week, so you probably didn't do much besides recovering.
No, I did find a manga that I started reading actually today. But so we went to the beach today, and I like to bring a book with me, but when you have kids, you don't actually sit and relax and read at the beach. I read like the first little bit of it, but it's interesting, and I want to talk about it when I finish it, but I'm just going to mention it. When I had bought my physical copy of Until I Meet My Husband, which we'll talk about later, I had also bought this one-shot essay manga called My Brain is Different: Stories of ADHD and Other Developmental Disorders by Monzusu. This is also published by Seven Seas. And it's the creator of it. She discovered in adulthood that she had ADHD because she observed that her son was having some developmental delays at 18 months old. And a lot of adults, a lot of women, actually find out about their own developmental disorders when they are in the process of getting a diagnosis for their children, because certain disorders they show up differently in women than they do in men, or girls than boys. So it's really interesting. I read the first part. The first story is the author's story about her discovering that she had ADHD, and kind of thinking back on her life and going, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. Of course I had ADHD." But this collection is she reached out and asked a bunch of different people for their stories about living with a developmental disorder. So I started reading the second one, which is a man in his late 30s with autism spectrum disorder and ADHD. But I have not had a chance to like read the whole thing. So it's really interesting. And I think it's something that Dakazu would really like. So
Sounds right up my alley.
yeah, no, it's really fun, and it's like a cute style. It's like a pretty straightforward. It's not too complicated. Pretty simple, but it looks nice. Um, and the subject matter is very interesting. Some of it's a little heavy because I mean these people are struggling with issues that they might not know they have for the longest time. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, the first part of it was interesting. So I will talk about it more when I eventually finish it. That's all I got.
Very nice. Thank you, Morgana. What about you, Dar?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything. Just been playing some games and yeah, I haven't read anything.
Well, it's okay. I got 2 manga. Which one should I start with? Okay, let's get the nice one out of the way.
Oh.
Hold on, let me get a link for you both. Okay, so this manga is called Sakadokoro Haraiso Nichijou. I got a link to the first chapter over on Champion Cross website. This is a manga by Kuzou Maruoka. It's published in Mystery Bonita magazine from Akita Shoten. The best way I can describe this is late night diner the popular manga and Netflix live-action series. Except it takes place in a future world with mutants and robots. But there's a small diner, pub, eatery, bar that's run by a lady named Oharu. And she has she caters to the lower class people there that live there. And this first chapter, a big person comes in and has a meal and stays until closing time and then tries to rob Oharu. But Oharu kicks her ass because, she was an ex-soldier. And when she discovers that this big person is a woman, and her name is Lie, and this person has nowhere to do and nothing to go, and that's why they tried to rob. They're like, why don't you try working here instead? And so the two of them work at this pub. And it's different stories about the customers who come there and their different just nice things. And so it's slightly food related, but the pub is mostly just a setting for these characters and introducing new characters and patrons to the pub who come out and talk and hang out. And it's nice.
I like the art. It's kind of old school a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
There's something kind of 70s-ish about it.
It's very charming, cartoony of the proportions of the characters too.
Reminded a little bit of Leiji Matsumoto. I mean, it's not of the same.
I mean, Leah, when she shows up in the big bucket hat, and the scarf, totally is Reiji Matsumoto. Yeah, you see some influence of that kind of stuff.
And the eyes on the was it Ohara? You said
yes.
Those eyelashes.
It's not the most original idea, but it's good, and I liked it. And you just get to see these characters interacting. Yeah. Eventually starts dating one of there's an ex-host club host. That's cute. It's a very nice manga. Reminds me of the type of manga that we read for what was his name? The Kuishimbo and the Kenka Ramen.
Oh yeah.
A working man's type of manga. Simple and entertaining. Okay, now it's time to talk about something crazy. This is the most Dakazu fucking manga find ever. Okay, get ready. Hold on to your butts, Darfox.
I like the implication that Darfox has multiple butts to hold on to.
Of course. I read a manga called Hyper Hard Boiled Gourmet Report. This is a mangatization of a Japanese television show of the same name. The television show aired in 2017. The manga follows a director for Television Tokyo, which is a giant, television network. His name is Ryohei Kamide. He made a documentary series where he went to places like Liberia and entered the slums and talked to ex-child soldiers to see how they lived and what they ate. In the second episode, he went to LA to talk to the Mexican cartel and street gangs to do the same thing. It's pretty fucking crazy what this guy did. And so the manga covers what he did when he went to Liberia and how he started out by like deciding to do this like television show. The manga itself covers some things that were not in the television show, things that were cut. You can find these clips on YouTube, but he went to a building of ex-child soldiers, and immediately everybody came out and were like, "Who the fuck are you? What are you doing here? Tell us, we'll rip your jaw off." Like it's all in English, so like I could link you the YouTube links and you'll see all this. But somehow he is able to sneak his GoPro in and talk to these people and convince them to let them see how they live, to show like even like living in like really like tough conditions without a lot of money and resources, that they find food that they enjoy, and kind of like show how people in these situations live. And that's what the documentary is about. And the kicker, Morgana, this man is a huge germaphobe.
Oh no.
And he went, like, when he pitches his idea like in Tokyo at the network, to everyone's like, I don't know about this. He's like, but I can do it if I go by myself. So this guy went by himself as his own crew to tape everything and document everything. And the manga itself is only 2 volumes and only covers what he did in Liberia, but you can watch this show on Japanese Netflix. I checked. It's there. I think in the 3rd episode, he goes to fucking Russia to talk to, like, drug smugglers. This man has the biggest balls I've ever seen in my life. Dar, you were going to say something?
No, I just laughed.
Okay.
It's fascinating. I mean, better him than me. A germaphobe, and he's going into places where, like, I mean, I saw in the manga pages where there's like talking about like Ebola.
Yes. It's pretty wild. In the episode 2, like the actual television episode, when he goes to Liberia and he's talking to the people there, he like actually interviews a woman. She was the only surviving member of her family who didn't die of Ebola. And kind of like asking her, you know, what do you think? You know, how do you feel about... And she's just like, I just live, and it's hard. It's pretty heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Or in Liberia, he sees that like there's food resources that are put out, you know, by the UN for free that are being sold. Specifically, he found like a cornmeal that was like put out like it was Japanese brand, had a Japanese flag on it, and even on the package it says not for sale, but it's being sold there.
Yeah.
He goes to like a government like embassy there and talks to like the government official and asks them about it. And of course the government official is like, I don't know, that's not happening. And it's like that's all there is to it. It's like, okay, this person denies it, and that's all I can get like as an official comment. It's some wild shit. His life is definitely in danger at one point, but miraculously he is saved. This guy is fascinating. I watched an interview of him on YouTube, and apparently, right before he quit Television Tokyo, he did an interview for like a magazine where he he fired shots at the television company while he was still working there, about how like these things are, you know, things need to change. This is not great. Because I guess like before he quit, he wanted to get into podcasts, because like he said, like podcasts are going to start getting big in Japan. He wanted to do a podcast for him, so he went to a place in Japan and talked to biker gangs, and he had set up and built this program. And then like when he got back to the network was just like, we can't do this. And then he was just like, well, why? You know, okay, okay, sure, we can't do this, but I want to know why, and therefore, like when I try to make something else, I won't, I'll avoid what the issue is. And he didn't get an answer for like 3 months, and all he got back after that was they just said no. So
Cool.
this is a person who was like very frustrated about his working conditions at TV Tokyo, being limited, restrained on like what he could do, and then he ended up quitting. And now he's just traveling the world, and he's probably gonna write a book about his experiences, talking to the common people and seeing how they live. Kind of an interesting thing that he mentioned is he wanted to show like all these situations of people living these extreme lives around the world to like Japanese audiences, because Japan has like a very large percentage of suicides. Almost, I guess, in like he wanted to show that around the world people are living in extreme harsh conditions, but they don't think about taking their own lives even in these tough times. So
putting things into perspective a little bit.
Yeah. So at the beginning, I felt like this guy is this guy doing exploitive? But when I even watched the television program, I was like, this is actually really informative, and it kind of really honestly paints like the pictures of these people, coming together and surviving and sharing food. Like he was surprised how many times he would go into like these slums and these people would just offer, be like, "Do you want to have some food with us?" And they would just share a meal together, and it was just like such a bonding experience. Even in one of the buildings in Liberia he goes to, where he meets like these ex-child soldiers, the entire crux of that episode is like there's a rumor that during like the civil wars that happened that used child soldiers, the child soldiers were rumored to participate in cannibalism, and this guy actually like asked these child soldiers about it, and the answer that he got was the ones who partook in cannibalism got sick and passed away.
Yeah, it's not an ideal. I mean, you really got to do it only when it's you have no other choice, right? Like,
Yeah. And it's really interesting because even in that building where they went to Morgana with these child soldiers, there's like hundreds of people living there, and the director was shocked to learn that the people living there, the ex-soldiers, they were on opposite sides of the
oh,
conflict, but they were living together because war's over. We did what we had to do in the war. It's not because we wanted to do it, we did it because we had to.
right.
Yeah, and so seeing them live, together, trying to work together to scrap together money to make food for everybody there is pretty impressive and touching. So I did not know about this television program, but I discovered it through manga, and I think that's pretty important. Hyper hard boiled gourmet report.
It's a very Dagazu manga.
It is. The title too, like they made it like really extreme just to catch people's eye on purpose. Just so people be like, "What the fuck is this?" And then you watch, you're like, "Oh shit, okay, cool." So there you go. Oh, I should mention, the director's name is Ryohei Kamide, so he's technically the author, but the artist was Shintaro Yamamoto for this manga, and he's worked on a guidon for Worst, which is a delinquent manga series done by the delinquent manga specialist Hiroshi Takahashi that I've talked about before. So yeah, really a different experience, and probably not a manga we'll ever see it officially in English.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
Yep.
But we've gotten some surprises, so
Yeah, we have. Okay, so that's it for my what you've been reading. Let's go ahead and end that segment. Man, we're a little early. I'm wondering if, like, should I extend something? Should I talk about something else?
Hurry, stall.
Is there a tangent we want to go on? It'll be fine. Let's talk about what we're going to do next week before we get to the main segment. So next week, we're going to do a Shoujo Showdown! Seamus isn't here to stop us. It's time to get back to some shoujo manga. Yeah, Morgana and I talked before we started recording. We have 3 titles to read. It's just, so essentially this is a triple dip, 3 different manga, first volume. But the kick is they're shoujo. So we're gonna check out Otomen. We'll check out My Love Mix-Up. And also, In the Clear Moonlit Dusk. Otomen and My Love Mix-Up are put out by Viz. And In the Clear Moonlight Dusk is put out from Kodansha. We got that pick from Vicky Dalton, one of our listeners.
Yeah, Vicky, we were scrolling through your Instagram before recording.
We're stealing your ideas. Thanks for the content. Just kidding.
Everybody go follow Vicky.
Yes, you should follow Vicky. I'm butting over my tongue. Sorry. Yeah, so look forward to that triple dip Shoujo Showdown next week. Okay, everybody, we're just going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will talk about our main topic, Until I Met My Husband. Stay tuned. Okay, we are back, everybody. It's time to talk about our main manga, Until I Met My Husband. It is written by Ryosuke Nanasaki, and it's about his life. And the art is by Yoshi Tsukizuki. For localization and translation is done by Amber Tamosaitis, adaptation Carly Smith, and lettering Nicole Roderick. Put out in English by Seven Seas. In Japan, it came out in 2020, and it ran in Bungei Shunju. Put out by... Oh no, sorry, that's the publisher. At Bunshun Online is where it ran. Let's read the copy on Seven Seas. The memoir of gay activist Ryosuke Nanasaki and the first religiously recognized same-sex marriage in Japan. Original novel of essays is also available from Seven Seas. From school crushes to awkward dating sites to finding a community, this collection of stories recounts the author's firsts as a young gay man searching for love. Dating is never easy, but that goes doubly so for Ryosuke, whose journey is full of unrequited loves and many speed bumps. I can't read this word. But perseverance. Thank you, Morgana. And time heals all wounds, even those of the heart. This moving memoir by gay activist Ryosuke Nanasaki, following his historic life story, was originally released in Japan as a novel of collected essays. They are compiled here beautifully in a manga format. Yeah, sorry about that. I had the most literal brain fart and I froze. I was like, I don't know how to say this word.
It happens.
It's a Saturday.
It sure is.
Mm-hmm.
I love how my excuse is spreading.
Yes.
It's a Saturday.
Well, yes, we have this one single volume manga about Ryosuke Nanasaki's experiences growing up, being terrified of his possible sexual orientation. And it just covers a couple of unrequited loves in middle school and high school, his first relationships out in college, until he meets his husband. Darfox, what did you think about this manga?
That was very nice and very well drawn, and I thought it was hard not to think about and kind of just feel for the situations. Very simple. This is not a really complicated book, but the clarity in which the situations are kind of expressed, I think really helped. This all. I hope this isn't seen as a criticism or anything, but this almost feels like the next thing to read if My Brother's Husband was made for you or something. Where this is it's not really concerned with what straight people think so much, in the way that how My Brother's Husband is all about kind of sometimes it feels like it's all about straight people. This is this is a gay man's story and his upbringing, but it's really just completely focused around his kind of his crushes growing up and how he navigated it and how he dealt with it and how it became torturous to a point for him to try and just continue simulating or pretending, um, and just the different things that happen to him um, throughout. I can only assume that the book goes into way more detail, um, because this was pretty quick read. It's not like a really like wordy, heavy book. Um, so in book form, I can only or assume that there's way more stuff to it.
Yeah, it covers a lot of his crushes and growing up, but the actual part about like his future husband is. Do you all agree that like it's kind of quick? It's barely like a quarter of the book.
Well, it's everything that happened until he met his husband.
I suppose it's in the title, yeah. I kind of wanted more of like the husband stuff though. That's the stuff that like I wanted to see.
Dagazu just wants what
I
did you
need
eat
the
yesterday.
after I met my husband book.
Yeah. He wants the lovey-dovey newlywed shit.
I mean, I'm still glad it has like a happy ending that he meets his husband, but it's pretty torturous like what happens to him like up till that point.
I have to say I'm really pleasantly surprised by how willing he was to talk about some of his like navigating dating and sex, because I think for a lot of straight people, they don't realize um how much being gay sometimes can seem to center all around sex. I think that for a lot of people, because Yosuke kept meeting up with guys through various groups and apps and things like that. And I think, this is a complaint I've heard from gay men who are friends of mine, that it's, that's kind of your, if you want to meet people, you kind of got to hook up. That happens a lot, I think. In certain, obviously this is not across the board, but I thought it was really interesting that he wasn't hesitant about showing that, because I do think it, at least in the United States, Japan might be different, but that would probably strike a lot of people as like, I don't know, like not weird, but like, is that, and not even immoral, almost just like shocking, like what they do, that they just like meet random people and have sex. I mean, and, straight people do it too, but it seems like it's a really big deal for a lot of gay men. And I know young gay men especially who've come up in this and kind of like, this is the way you meet people, is you have, you end up having a one night stand with some dude who could be your dad.
Mm-hmm. Morgana, what did you think about Until I Met My Husband?
I really liked it. It's funny, so I have the physical book. I bought it like 2 years ago, whenever it came out in English. It's not a very long book, but for whatever reason, the paper, I guess, that Seven Seas used, this book is heavy. I picked it up and I was like, "What is this, like, full color?" It's not. It just is a heavy book for the couple hundred pages that it is. So, be warned if you buy the physical edition, it might be a little bit weighty. It was so odd to me. But no, the book itself was great. I was glad that for the most part, and glad, because this is autobiographical, for the most part that Ryosuke had mostly reactions to coming out and to his life, to his choices. I obviously there were other things that happened that were not great. His mother's reaction was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
She should be ashamed. Obviously that also ended up working out in the long run, right? That's fine. But for the long, for what was it, 7 years, he thought his mother was like ashamed, right? But you see his, he had that long time boyfriend, who was not out to his friends, and when they found out he was gay, he was like, he was like really picked on and made fun of and whatever, and it's like, it's so shitty, like, it's so terrible, and that his boyfriend's reaction was like, "I'm gonna try to be straight," instead of, like, "I'm gonna try to change myself to conform to these, you know, to the expectations of these friends of mine who, I mean, they're not your friends." And Ryosuke said that to him, like, "If that's their reaction, they're not your friends, like, that's not okay."
Yeah, that was sad to read.
That guy's
Really
story
heartbreaking.
was really messed up. Like in
Yeah.
general, like that guy clearly had so many hangups of various sorts, um, and he just seemed to come to the most tragic solutions to all of them.
Yeah, I hope he's in a better place. Also glad Yosuke didn't end up with him in the long term. Something I had never really considered, possibly because my name is kind of unique. Uh, when you're interested in people of the same sex, you might end up marrying somebody with your same exact name.
Yeah,
Yosuke and Yosuke.
yeah, it could still happen, um, with opposite sex marriage, but it's
Yes.
just way more rare.
Way more rare. There are few names that are commonly gender neutral, although that's changing a lot actually, I think. I mean, my son's name is Aubrey, which traditionally is a male name, but these days is mostly used for girls, I think.
I'm trying to look up information about this partnership declaration certificate because there is like a extra note there on that page when they have their ceremony, but I can't really find it. That was the kind of stuff information that I wish there was a little more of, to be honest.
Yeah, was it the bride was a boy that gave us a lot of kind of
Yes,
context? Yeah, yeah, that
it gave
was
an extreme amount of context explaining like terms and like how everything works in Japan.
was very helpful.
Yeah.
I think now though same-sex marriage is legalized in Japan. Was it
Yes,
2021? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, before you would have to have any kind of like legal connection for for a gay couple, you would have to like one of the one side would have to become like the adopted child of the other. That was like the
Yeah.
only way to like have a connection, and that sounds like horrible.
Yeah. I am something I thought of that was really interesting. So Ryosuke talks about how he and his friend started this company for LGBTQ weddings. And that a lot of his queer acquaintances kind of pushed back at this idea, like, why would you do that? And I thought that was really interesting because I do think there is pushback against same-sex marriage in that a lot of people feel like it is conforming to kind of a heterosexual ideal of what family looks like or what marriage looks like, what a partnership looks like. And I totally get that. And I was chatting with my husband about it, and we are legally married. And he was like, "Yeah, around the time when they were legalizing same-sex marriage in the United States, I kind of thought they should just take civil unions and give them all the same benefits as being married, because really, I mean, marriage is a contract, like it's just a way of being like, this person should have my assets when I die. We share everything, we share, assets. It's I mean, part of the reason my husband and I got married, we would probably still be together if we didn't get married. It was just a matter of like, this is more practical for various reasons. And it's kind of fun to like throw a big party, and invite your friends and family. But like realistically, like the marriage is the commitment should already exist by the time you're choosing to get married, right?
Mm-hmm.
That said, I'm glad that same-sex marriage is legal in Japan now.
Absolutely.
But I definitely also see the pushback against the institution of marriage as a whole, as a concept. I say as a married person.
Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier, but I would appreciate a little bit more context about like what Ryosuke and Ryosuke actually did do and what happened for them. Obviously, like the theme of this is not that. It's more about Ryosuke, and his experiences growing up and his first dating experiences until he met the other Ryosuke, but it would have been nice to have those included.
Yeah, I wonder if, because it's maybe more because the ceremony might be more well known in Japan, maybe it didn't feel the need to expound. Or alternatively, I wonder if the essay goes into more detail too, and it was just a matter of how much can we fit into one single manga volume.
Did you read the afterword by Ryosuke and Nanosaki Morgana?
I did.
I thought that paragraph was interesting. Here, I'll just read it. Until now, I don't think the lived experiences of gay people and those who seek out the world of BL have lined up. I mean, that's like that's a really nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
That might be because both parties are seeking different things. Yeah, that's where it is. But as someone who resides in both worlds, I feel that the team of myself, a gay man, and the BL artist Yoshi Tsukizuki has yielded a truly groundbreaking work. That's nice.
Yeah, it's funny. I hadn't really thought about it when I was reading, but in retrospect, I was like, yeah, like Ryosuke is really kind of like hot B shonen in his college year. You know what I mean? There's like very like that's a character design I'd see in some BL.
Mm-hmm.
His like shaggy hair. It's pretty cute.
Living with his high school crush is fucking crazy.
That was torture.
Why the fuck he decided to do that? I understand, but God.
Yes, but that's hard. And I loved the reaction that his friends had when he kind of exploded and basically came out by accident.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, "Oh my god, that's so hard." And that was just the compassion there. I said it before. I appreciated that most of his interactions around coming out and being gay were seemed mostly pleasant, right? Like most people were very considerate and compassionate. And that scene was just really touching because I just feel like he had spent so much time in his own head assuming what people were going to think about him, and he was totally wrong in like the best possible way.
Yeah. Very fortunate. You already mentioned the mom thing, and that's super unfortunate.
But I love later when he called and he's like, "So I'm getting married," and she's like, "Okay, I guess I'll tell your dad." And dad was like, "Oh, so he's gay, haha."
Mm-hmm.
NBD, like no big deal, like just.
And the mom was like, "Oh, we can't tell your father. He's gonna cut you out of the family."
Right.
It's
Kind
of
and weren't they
crazy.
divorced? I mean, because there was a scene too where he mentioned that his parents divorced, which was like, and her mom said like, "Daddy left because you didn't listen" or something like that. I was like, "Yo." I feel like mom's got some baggage.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I might have misunderstood. Was that him or was that the jealous boyfriend?
I thought that was him, but maybe I misread it.
I thought that was the jealous boyfriend, and I thought that's where his like insecurities came from.
Oh yeah, that was the jealous boyfriend.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, no, I misread it then. Okay, that makes sense. That makes a lot more sense.
The mom still be kind of crazy how you're not gonna like advocate for your kid. It's like
Yeah,
scared of the husband saying
yeah.
like, "Oh, we can't tell the father." Like, wait, what the fuck does the father have to do with it? Like, he just told you about it.
Yeah, as a parent, first of all, I cannot fathom saying things like that to my child. Um, but and my husband knows this. If the choice ever comes between picking sides, like in something very serious between my children and my children come first. And this is not my husband just walked by me and made a face. He knows this though. My children come first. I mean, he's making faces at me. It's it's just a matter of like, I don't know, they need me more than he does. You know what I mean? Like your children, you bring them into this world, you try and give them all the resources to become the best person they can become. It's your job to take care of them, and I don't think that stops at adulthood necessarily, right? Like, just because your kid is 18, 19, 20 and telling you that they're gay doesn't mean that you can like stop being responsible for like, I mean, you're not responsible for their feelings, but like, I don't know, you're still that source of support. You're still that I don't know. I don't have an adult child, but like, it just seems ridiculous to me that you would like hide something like that from your spouse and not just be like, "Hey, this is how it's going down, husband, and if you have a problem with it, then you can get out of the house."
I mean, the only saving grace with the mom was she said, "But the way I feel about you won't change."
Yeah, of course.
That was like the bare minimum, but
Yeah,
at least she said that.
She like tacked it on at the end.
Yeah.
Did he reconnect with any of his other friends, or any of his past crushes after he came out? No, right? There wasn't an aside where like,
Not that I saw. I don't think so.
because after he kind of like accidentally came out, um, he said that like after that he started like living outwardly as a gay man, which I would assume would mean that like if he would speak to somebody from school again or something. But then again, like maybe he just wasn't speaking to them that much, or if he did, it'd be like a short, casual thing, and he wouldn't have to like be like, "Hey, by the way, I'm gay." Bye. Maybe
By the
just,
way, my boyfriend just said.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know, Dar. I feel like accidentally coming out to his two female friends puts a cap on that story, and then it's like, let's move on to like my first relationship. So they just want to keep moving it along, I guess. Maybe they had a limited page count, limited chapters, stuff to work with. That's why it seems like when when he meets his husband, that came in like not even. It came in like maybe 2 chapters, not even. It was like so fast. I guess again, I guess Morgana says the title is "Until I Met My Husband."
I think one of the side effects of the story being all about like the stuff before he meets the husband is that when he meets the husband, you expect something else to happen. It's kind of like remember Drip Drip, on how like she had like multiple like boyfriends during that story, and then at the end you think that she finally found the guy, but he turned out to be like the biggest asshole of all. Like,
yeah, but that's
it,
part of Itagaki writing a fictional story about like like an insane circumstance.
yeah, but like the fact that like most of his partners were explored like relatively well. They kind of had like a beginning and a cap to them. You kind of get that sense of like there's more. There should be more to this. Um, but yeah, there isn't, because it's kind of like the end and the epilogue.
Yeah, and it's also a thing about like nonfiction sometimes is in fictional stories you can make up whatever you want to be like a more dramatic story, right? But usually like, and of course nonfiction could be stranger than fiction. But in a lot of cases, nonfiction is pretty mundane. It's pretty all right without like something super dramatic happening.
I
like
also
the worst. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say it occurs to me that maybe there's not quite as much about his husband because they're married now, and it would seem like giving away too much about the like
yeah.
The other stuff happened in the past. It's gone. It's done. And this is more like his current feelings for his husband and his respect for their like privacy might have something to do with it. Although there's a bunch in there that's like
he's very open about
pretty
a lot of
sexy.
Stuff, yeah. The thing about there was like a decent amount of like spicy scenes, but I found them pretty like, I don't know. Things were happening where he was hooking up and having sex, but like they weren't like overtly sexualized. I wonder if that's on purpose.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty matter of fact. I mean this book is rated older teen. It's not like an 18 plus book, and it doesn't need to be. I don't think. It's pretty.
The sex scenes are not like super graphic.
No.
Yeah.
Mostly implied. I think you see a butt at some point.
You see kind of like the base of a dick. With his friends like Morning Wood.
Sorry. It's just the way when you say it like that, it just makes me laugh. Sorry.
The base of the disc that leads to the shaft that ends in the head.
Okay.
Wow.
The agreed upon dick portions. But yeah, like when the friend had like Morning Wood, he was like looking at his friend's Morning Wood.
I mean, but it wasn't his exposed dick. It was like literally just a tent pole.
It was a little.
But you saw the base.
Little underween there.
Can we stop talking about the base? Not because I'm being prude, but it's just making me laugh.
The base of the
base. Oh my god.
I Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think it's a book that doesn't shy away from sex and is very matter of fact about it, but it's also not like, I mean, there are definitely people who would call it more mature or claim that it should be rated more maturely than it is, but I find it, I was actually very like, I don't know, clinical is not the word. Yeah, just matter of fact. I didn't.
I mean, the focus isn't the sex. It's
right.
It's about Ryosuke's relationship and what happened. Sex was there. Sex did happen, but when talking about his first sexual experience or talking about like his first boyfriend or even his husband, it's more about like their relationship. That's the focus, and I think that's smart to focus on it. I'm trying to think of what else to talk about, but... Oh, what you both liked Yoshitsuki's artwork, right? It was very nice.
Oh yes, yeah, really nice. I didn't recognize the names of any of the BL that they have done, so I'm not sure if they're available in English. But I would definitely read more by them. Like I said, I like their art. It's very, I don't know, very clean. It's good. It works really well for BL. It's very, I mean, it's kind of, she's got that protagonist character design thing down pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of his husband? I mean, that's like the point, right? He fell in love. He got married. Do we like the second Ryosuke?
There's barely anything there though for me to like.
Seems like a nice chap.
Yeah, like at the end there was an extra story about like when they first met he agreed to like smoke cigarettes for main Ryosuke.
Which I thought was smoke into his mouth. It's cute. Yeah.
But But again, there's not a lot there. That's I would have liked to have got to know him better, but your point, Morgana, about they're real people and they're exposing more of their personal selves. Like I guess that makes sense.
He does seem very ideal in a way, you know what I mean? Like he it's implied that they have a normal marriage where they fight, and I think he said it even at the end, that things happen, but like he kind of it's clear he loves his husband and he wants to say nice things about him. But yeah, it does end up being like nice guy characters are a little bit boring. I had a lot of feelings about like the other his other long-term boyfriend who like was jealous. I mean, my feelings about him were not great, but I had feelings about him.
Yeah.
Okay, I just was reminded when he was living with his crush, and it was like it's so hard to live with his crush because he does all these things, like straddle me. Like, what? The guys just straddle each other sometimes.
It's a great question. I never understand. Like, I mean, I think that some people in close like relationships, like I think about when I was young, like a kid, like teenager, really, and like we would definitely like horse around and end up like sitting in each other's laps, or girls, boys, whatever. Um, so I think it happens, but I think if I lived with someone, I don't know, maybe I'm sure that the thought did not even pass through his friend's head that like this could maybe be crossing a boundary.
Yeah, I just felt like it was a bit much, but I don't know, whatever. Maybe I'm a secret prude, but yeah, I mean, like I would horseplay around with my friends when I was young, but not since like after middle school, I guess. Certainly not like as adults would I be
Right.
like would I straddle my friend and be like, "When's dinner?"
I guess he's just that type of person. Like he's just childish at heart,
Mm.
especially like right after high school
And he
and
did.
college level.
That was the friend that jumped in the same like bath, right? Same
Yes.
bath bucket.
Yes, yes.
So I guess he's just
No boundaries.
inadvertently flirty.
Mm-hmm. I'm flipping
I
through the pages. Oh, go ahead, Margot.
Oh, I was just thinking about him again, and I'm sorry, thinking about his friend who was living with him that he had a crush on, and thinking about his friend from high school that he was in love with too, or was it middle school?
I
In
think was it the middle school friend?
he
Oh,
had
about
he
the
had both.
hair. Yeah, yeah.
No, I was gonna say in both cases, I just felt so sad that because Ryosuke could not make peace with his sexuality and come out, he ended up hating these girls who didn't do anything wrong. Um, to be fair, his best friend who became his roommate, those conversations in those phone conversations with his girlfriend probably would also drive me crazy even if I wasn't in love with. It's like, oh, just shut up. They're so annoying. But because Ryosuke was battling with his own kind of self hatred and self denial, he ended up projecting anger toward women who and girls who didn't necessarily deserve it, right? They didn't really do anything wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And that's really, I mean, and it's sad. Like and I think he recognizes that too. Like that's not an appropriate reaction, but what do you do when you have no outlet for that anxiety and that heartache?
Mm-hmm. It wasn't a good choice, but like I could understand how he felt.
It's a very real thing though that people, it happens all the time. And again, I do appreciate how honest he is about a lot of these things cuz it doesn't always make him look good. I mean, he looked like a big jerk like yelling at his friend like that instead of just like, calmly saying like, "Dude, listen, I don't, it's kind of annoying this or that. There's a way he could have like asked for what he was asking for without blowing up. But because he had so much emotion behind it, because it was so personal and he couldn't talk about why, it became a really big issue instead of something that could just been, dealt with calmly. It's not healthy to be in denial and to not be yourself around others. It's not good for you.
Oh yeah. I'm sure it's doubly extra hard in Japan.
Where conformity is king.
Yep. Hopefully things will get better, but
I think they are, little by little.
yeah.
In a lot of places, where it's taken a long time, And then of course there are a lot of places where it's still terrible, but
Yeah.
there are some places in the United States where it's particularly terrible to be queer.
Oh, yep.
Especially trans.
Mm-hmm. It's such bullshit. But before I start ranting about that, let's give our final thoughts because I think we've covered basically everything in this title. Morgana, would you recommend this book?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with Darfox. There is a certain amount of like, okay, you've read My Brother's Husband, and now you can graduate to something that's a little bit more interesting.
This is the next level.
Yeah,
Take one step up.
and I think as somebody who doesn't necessarily need the lesson of My Brother's Husband, I enjoyed this much more. Because it was personal too. It was interesting to see. I liked, if Genko Tagame did like an autobiography, be all about that. I mean, his life must be very interesting, right? I'd love to read that. But yeah, I definitely think that like, that was learning about gays 101. This is learning about gays 102. We need to diversify the pool of sexuality at some point. It's all gay men right now. But I think this is a great read. It was fun. It was easy to read. I didn't think I was going to read it right away because I got sick. But then I was like, oh, I'm just going to do it. And then I couldn't put it down. So I blasted right through it in like an hour.
Very nice. What about you, Dar?
Yeah, I liked it as well. My Brother's Husband was something that was very nice and very cute. With occasional like shower scenes.
I mean, you're right.
Yeah, this was just felt like a much more raw story, or much more emotional story. Um, Something that made me feel more.
Yep, it's the power of nonfiction. I gotta say, because this is not drawn by Ryosuke Nanasaki, and it's done by an actual BL manga artist, it's it's like such it almost feels like a different animal as far as like nonfiction work.
Yeah, I feel like nonfiction stuff, even by like people who do otherwise do manga, is often a little bit more cartoony than this.
Yeah, to kind of
Or
like
simple.
separate themselves a little from their own personal experiences. Like Nagata Kabi does it a lot with their cartoony stuff. But yeah, it's a nonfiction story about this man Ryosuke Nanasaki, done through a BL art touch, and it's good. I recommend it too.
I'm curious if either of you would read the essay. I am I would like to, but I have 3 bazillion books to read, so it's not, like, top of my list. I feel like I got the story, you know what I mean? But I'd also be kinda curious about it, so
I'm
Yeah.
also a little curious, but it does not outweigh my like general like dislike of reading words. So I don't think it will happen for me.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know again, like the stuff that would have happened between the pages of this manga, like the deeper details.
Yeah. But Darfox, do you actually want to read that?
I want to read something. I haven't read stuff in a long time.
You read manga.
Yeah,
Manga is reading.
That counts.
No matter what a school librarian will tell you.
I will tell you, most school librarians will tell you manga is reading. I
But
know
you
a
know
lot
what,
of
Morgana?
librarians.
Like, a lot of them will not like be like, oh, you know, they have reading goals for like libraries and books at
Oh, yeah,
schools,
yeah.
and they'll be like, graphic novels don't count,
Yeah, no,
which is horseshit.
yeah, it is. One of the people I know through work, Jillian Rudis, I've mentioned her before. She is a school librarian in New York public school system, and she's also known as the manga librarian. And she has done a big push for manga in libraries. So, telling you, most people with 2 brain cells can tell you that manga is reading. Comics is books.
Yep. Okay, I think that'll be the end of this episode of Manga Machinations. I want to thank Darfox and Morgana for joining me this week. Oh, it looks like Chris from Canada was in chat for a second, so shout out to him. This live recording will be over on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/MangaMacTV, if you want to check out the archive. While you're doing that, make sure you check out Manga Mac Watches, our new YouTube channel. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to the podcast proper through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere else you can find us. Rate and review us. Check out our website, mangamachinations.com. Our Tumblr is mangamachinations.tumblr.com. If you want to support us, buy us a coffee, head over to ko-fi.com/mangamac. Come join our Discord server. We've been a little lax on playing Mahjong because we've been busy, but we still try to play Mahjong every Monday. So come join the Discord and come talk to us. Discord.me/mangamac to join. Send emails over to mangamachinations@gmail.com. Follow us on social media at Manga Mac Podcast. That's Manga MAC Podcast. That's for Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, everything else. And you can follow my social media at DocZoo. Follow Darfox at Darfox8. And follow Morgana at Morgana Relina. Alright, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to us this week. Bye bye.